Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new edition of Message of Hope. And today, directly from Pittsburgh, we have the chance to have Deborah Barron, who is a coach, and she works with young professionals in a not-profit world and emerging leaders to gain confidence and competence. Welcome, Deborah.
Thank you, Martine. It's very nice to be here.
Well, thank you for saying yes. And I will ask you the famous question, which is, how does having this understanding, how does that help you navigate whatever shows up in your life?
Oh, gosh. It changed everything for me. When I first started hearing about the understanding, when I first started to hear the principles, and see the truth of them in my life and in the world, the very first thing that struck me was that I had all the wisdom that I needed to navigate whatever showed up for me. And it was such an incredible experience because I had had about a 30-year career of listening to and trying to incorporate everybody else's shoulds. Every time I took a class, it was another should that went on my shoulders. Every time I got, let's call it feedback from a supervisor, it was something else I put on my shoulders. And I spent so much energy trying to maintain all those shoulds. And when I heard that I had all the wisdom I needed, 30 years worth of shoulds fell off my shoulders. So it was just an incredible relief. Incredible. And then the more I listened, the more, I started to see the inside out understanding came to me later. And I started to experiment with it. And I started to see that I was creating every experience. And it didn't necessarily change the experiences for me, but I stopped feeling like a victim and I stopped blaming. That's what I did. I stopped blaming. So I still might not have liked, if someone said something to me that I didn't like, I still didn't like it. But I knew that the not liking was coming from me. And I didn't blame them for the not liking anymore. So I got more and more curious. And I started to, new things started to occur to me, like compassion instead of aggravation. And that was really, really cool. So how does having this understanding in my life help me? It's just so infinite. Like, it helps me to see how things really work. I think that calms us down. It's like the difference between flailing around in the water and swimming smoothly. Because, flailing, you're kind of like grasping for something that's not there. And when you see how it works, you can move the water in a way that works for you. So that's what this understanding does for me. It allows me to move the water in a way that works for me. Or if I can't move the water, accept it for what it is. Allow myself to float when I need to float. Or swim when I need to swim.
And you work with young leaders. How open are they to that?
That's such a great question, because sometimes people will say to me, well, doesn't this wisdom come with age?
Not really.
Yeah, right? No, right? Yeah. Yeah. And because I work with so many young people, I see it. And it just isn't a matter of age. It's just some people I always, whenever I get up in front of a group to speak, I tell them, I kind of give them a heads up before I start. And I say, chances are you're going to react to what I'm about to tell you in one of four ways. Either you're going to say, yeah, what you're saying, I've always known that. You're not telling me anything new. Or you're going to say, I have no idea what you're saying, but I'm curious, so keep talking. Or you're going to say, oh my God, what you're telling me is unbelievable. I've never looked at the world like this before. This is amazing. Or you're going to say, no, you're wrong. That's not the way my life works. And I've yet to find anybody who falls outside of one of those four. But it's not a function of age. I hear those four responses from young people just as often as I hear them from anyone of any age. And I think that for people who really hear it, like this is how it works, and when they can see it, it's just such a relief. Relieves everything. You know, I was thinking about your theme of hope, and I was thinking about all the things that we see happening in the world right now, and wondering to myself, what does it mean to have hope for the things that I look out and see as disappointing? And I thought about the fact that hope really has to do with wanting something different, right? If we're content with now, then we don't need hope. And even knowing that my experience with how I experience the world, with how I experience current events, with how I experience, events in my neighborhood, doesn't matter how close to me or far away from me it is. Even knowing that my experience is coming from my thinking about them doesn't negate the fact that sometimes it feels right to hope for something different. Just feels right to hope for something different. And sometimes it feels right to take action to create something different. And sometimes it doesn't. And I don't know, I guess I kind of lost my point, but
having this understanding, knowing that it's inside out, doesn't preclude us to, like you were saying, taking action. For some people, it could be we have always have wisdom inside of us. And that wisdom will tell us to do this or that. Or like Sid said, just tend to his garden because he could do more for the world by tending in his garden, because his vibration being higher will have an impact on the world. So knowing that it's inside out, it's inside of me, that doesn't mean that I'll sit on my bacon and do nothing.
yeah.
So,
Yeah. And there's even something divine, I think, about discontentment. There can be. Because discontentment can spark something in us that creates change or creates something new or just creates period. And that's part of our nature. And it's so beautiful and hopeful to create something new and beautiful.
Most revolutions, wanted to create something new and beautiful. So,
yeah. Or even like you and I were talking about before we turned on the record button of, just maintain upkeeping our homes, right? We live here, and to create a space that's beautiful for ourselves. There's something really nice about that.
Thank you, Deborah. And if people want to find you, where can they find you?
My website is deborahbarron.com, and Barron has one R. And I'd love to hear from anyone anytime.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.